I've been using the Infinix GT 30 Pro for over 30 days now, and let me tell you, this phone does not just look like a gaming phone. It performs like one despite not having the best chipset performance for its price. But now that the hype has worn off and I've actually lived with it, gamed on it, and tested in real life, I've got a clearer picture of what it does well and where it cuts corners. So if you're thinking about picking one up, this is what you need to know after using it for over a month. Let's start with the obvious. The design still turns heads. I like it and think it's better than the GT20 Pro. You get an IP64 rating now for the build, which is slightly better than the IP54 from last year, although it only means guaranteed dust protection and not necessarily better water resistance. While we are still missing expandable storage and an audio jack, you do get pressure-sensitive shoulder buttons when gaming. It does work outside games as well, like being a shutter button for the camera, but honestly, it's so sensitive to accidental touches that I turned it off. Even after a month, I'm not tired of the bold look. But to keep the price low, Infinix continues to use a printed design that's easily noticeable when you stare at it really close. As a whole though, you don't really notice it that much. That mecha cyber back panel and the white LED lighting, I kinda remember it being more customizable than before. You only get these toggles whenever you want them to work. I'm not complaining though, but if you're looking for granular controls like a certain something, you're not going to find that here. The materials have held up surprisingly well, but I do have a few nitpicks. The corners of the phone are a bit too sharp, and it's not the most comfortable device to hold one-handed for long periods. And despite the plastic frame and back, this phone is so easy to accidentally slip out of your hands. It is that slippery. The camera design also feels a bit outdated, especially when compared to other devices in the same range. And the included case, it's usable but feels a little cheap, more like something just meant to avoid scratches than to actually protect the phone. But at least, it's free. After 30 days, I still enjoy the display every time I unlock the phone. You get a 6.67-inch AMOLED with a 120Hz refresh rate with Gorilla Glass 7 eye protection. It's not only sharp and color accurate, it's also incredibly bright, perhaps too bright for the price. If you max out the brightness slider, you get up to 800 nits of brightness, but if you turn on high brightness mode in the settings, that goes up to a staggering 1900 nits. That's more than enough for outdoor viewing. Although playing HDR YouTube is okay, you don't have official HDR support for Netflix and other streaming platforms, which may be a bit of a bummer for those who are starting to appreciate HDR content like me. Scrolling through apps and menus feels smooth though. Watching videos is immersive. But there are two things that stuck out over time. First, auto brightness is just too slow, and when it does kick in, it's usually a bit too dim. So I've ended up keeping brightness on manual most of the time. Second, the dynamic lock screen feature is lackluster. You only get to edit and choose from a few colors, fonts, and styles. Still, aside from that, the panel is vibrant and smooth, especially at this price. Now this is where the GT Pro continues to impress. The Dimensity 8200 Ultimate, paired with 12GB of RAM and UFS 4.0 storage, has not slowed down at all. I've used it for gaming and multitasking, and it still handles everything smoothly. It gets warm at best, typically reaching up to 46 degrees Celsius in games without throttling, so I never really use the external cooler. Infinix advertises this phone as an all-day 120 FPS system. Sure, it can do that, but that's when playing older titles like Call of Duty Mobile and Mobile Legends. Also, most of the games on the Play Store do not support 120 frames. Usually they are limited to 60 and 90 frames. In my case, I'm satisfied with the performance of the games I play, like the new Dragon Nest Classic, Persona 5, and even GTA San Andreas on Netflix, which gave me no jittering with the 12GB model. I know the Intuitive fanatics are going to cry about the use of an older chipset, but for those who just want a smooth gaming experience at this price point, the GT30 Pro won't disappoint you. And this is one thing I love: Superboot. You can leave your game open overnight, pick it up the next day, and your progress is still exactly where you left it. No relaunching, no reloading, it just stays there, ready to go. I mean, that's like Apple's level of RAM management. Xiaomi should learn from this. One of the standout features is the pair of GT triggers or shoulder buttons. I kept on wishing Poco would include shoulder triggers on their X lineup because that's something I would find useful in games, but I'm glad somebody else did it first. They are easy to customize and make a difference in games like Call of Duty or PUBG. To use them, go to Special Function in the settings and tap Game Mode. Usually, this is automatic when you install a game, but if it's not, you can always manually choose the games you want to run in game mode. When you fire up a game, swipe on the left side to access GT trigger. To assign the buttons, tap on Add Strategy. It can be a press, a rapid tap, or even a combo. You even have an option for a floating button to change button assignments on the fly. There's also visual and haptic feedback when pressing them. Although you can adjust the sensitivity, I don't really notice the difference. Each game has its own assignment or strategy, so you don't have to switch every single time you open games, so that's a good thing. Based on my experience, I will say that the position of the shoulder triggers is not the most comfortable when playing games like Call of Duty, especially with the thin profile of the device. It's definitely not ergonomic, but it does give an advantage when playing games competitively. You just have to get used to a certain hand position. Now let's talk about software experience. After 30 days with XOS 14 based on Android 14, I can say that it is clean enough for daily use. There's a bit of a bloatware now though. I guess it's part of growing pains when you're a company and want to keep the price of a phone to a minimum, but at least these apps are easily uninstallable. But there's one annoying lingering bug. Messenger randomly stops syncing after a while. At first, the only fix I found was to restart the phone, but then the problem just came back later. Now I just force stop the app and it starts working properly again. So far, the issue has yet to happen. And yes, I'm running the latest version of the software. So while the software has improved a lot, it is not without issues. Stability-wise, it's great. But having in-app problems can be a huge pain, especially for those who rely on notifications. On the bright side, Infinix software delivers notifications more consistently than any Xiaomi software, although I still get late notifications when it comes to emails. Still, the promise of 2 years of major updates and 3 years of security patches give me hope it will get better. The support is definitely on the short side, but I honestly think this phone will perform just fine even after the end of support. Now let's be honest here, this is not a phone you buy for the cameras. You get a 108 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultrawide, and a 13 megapixel selfie camera. Let's just say the photos and videos you get from the GT30 Pro are decent for social media and should not be viewed on a large monitor because that's where you see the lack of colors and details. The quality you get is also inconsistent. Sometimes you get very dark shots, other times they're soft, but most of the time the colors look bland. I don't think I got a single photo where I felt like it was good. Obviously, it gets worse in low light conditions. I think this may be the first time I've seen a phone where the selfie camera performs better than the rear cameras. The video quality is a hit and miss, but I do find the quality to be a bit better than photos, at least when there's enough lighting. You can record up to 4K at 60 frames with the main camera and up to 1440p at 30 frames with the ultrawide. They do get shaky when you don't have ultra stable mode turned on, but when you do have it on, there's a heavy crop or zooming in on the image, so watch out for that. Camera-wise, Infinix has a lot of catching up to do with their lineup in the competition. One thing I hope would be better though is the haptic feedback. It's barely noticeable, and when you do feel it, it just doesn't have that tight, premium snap you get from other phones. Same story with the fingerprint scanner. It works, but it's not as fast as others I've tested recently. It gets the job done, but not on par with the competition. Battery life has been excellent over the past month. With a 5000 mAh battery, I consistently get a full day of use even with some gaming and video playback mixed in. Screen on time is around 6 to 7 hours on most days. And the 45-watt fast charging is fast, but not as fast as the competition. You get to about 50% in 30 minutes and a full charge in 65 minutes. That's not all though. Infinix finally brought wireless charging here, and it's up to 30 watts. And you get 5 watts reverse wireless and 10 watts reverse wired charging. so go nuts. The phone does come with dual stereo speakers, and they are good enough for casual gaming and watching videos. But in my experience, they are a bit tinny, especially when compared to other devices in the same price range. They get loud, but they lack punch and depth in comparison. Fine for content, but not the best for immersion. So after 30 days of using the Infinix GT 30 Pro, here is the bottom line. If cameras are not your priority and you want a fast, capable, and surprisingly polished gaming phone without breaking the bank, this one is worth a serious look. Yes, the design is loud, the corners are a little sharp, the haptics are weak, the cameras are disappointing, and there are some software quirks. But the performance, battery life, display quality, and the extras like the GT triggers, super boot mode, and even bypass charging make up for a lot if what you're after is strictly gaming. It is not perfect, but it is fun, fast, and surprisingly reliable after a full month of use. If you are planning to get the GT 30 Pro, I will leave the links down below. And if you found this helpful, tap like, maybe subscribe, and let me know in the comments, would you use a phone like this if it meant giving up great cameras? That's it for this one. As always, until the next one, stay safe.